Good
Dear
morning.
God,
Welcome to the
thank you
third
for
day of the
allowing us to meet
56th
at today's
FINEX
event.
Conference, Navigating the
May you
Generational
extend your
Gap
divine
Towards
wisdom to our speaker
Transformational Growth.
so he may be
We
able
are
to
here at
impart
the
his
FINMA
knowledge and
boardroom with our
expertise.
speakers for today.
Bless all
Ladies
the
and gentlemen,
participants that they
we'll
will
stop for our
obtain vital
invocation
information
and
from
the
this
Philippine
event,
National Anthem.
that they will go out and share what they had learned in the spirit of your and generosity. May this activity glorify your name alone. Amen.
First time I do national anthem silent mode.
Thank you very much. We'd like to hear from Attorney Jesusa Loreto Arellano, co-chair of the Young Finance Officers Committee, our sponsoring committee, co-sponsoring committee.
Thank you. Thank you, Mignon. Good morning, fellow Phoenix members, friends, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to welcome you to the third day of the 56th Phoenix Week Conference. Our conference's overarching theme is Empower Progress, Inspire Change, transformational growth through sustainability, diversity, and digitalization. Today's session is sponsored by the Young Finance Officers and the Women in Finance committees. We gather to explore one of the most pertinent challenges and opportunities of our time, the generational gap. We recognize that it is not just a challenge, it's a tremendous opportunity for innovation and progress. With each generation offering its unique experiences and perspectives, bridging these gaps is key to unlocking transformative growth in our workplaces, communities, and beyond. We are honored this morning to have the father and daughter tandem of Ramon R. Del Rosario Jr. and Danielle R. Del Rosario of FINMA Corporation. Representing two generations in a huge conglomerate, they together with our moderator, Salve Duplito, and our panelists, Paviter Kaur, provide insights on their challenges and leadership dynamics and cite strategies on how to bridge generational gaps to foster collaboration in an evolving corporate culture and leverage the strengths of each generation. Thank you for joining us this Wednesday morning, and welcome again to Navigating Generational Gaps Towards Transformational Growth.
Thank you, Jing. And now we will call on Ms. Maricar Castillo Reyes to make the acknowledgements.
Good morning, everyone. We are thrilled to welcome you to today's event. On behalf of the Phoenix Week Committee, led by the subcommittee chairs and Vice Chair Nikki Tang and Ray Abilo, we would like to extend our sincere thanks and recognition to our sponsors for making the 56th Phoenix Week event a success. For our platinum sponsors, we have Ayala Land Inc., Forecasting and Planning Technologies Inc., and Shell Filipinas Corporation. For our diamond sponsors, IT Group Inc., Planview, and Stronghold Insurance Incorporation. Gold sponsors, Ace and Res, AC Health, Asticom Group of Companies, BDO Unibank Inc., Bank of the Philippine Islands, Deloitte Philippines, KPMG RG Manabat and Company, Landco Pacific, Land Bank of the Philippines, Lander Superstore, Metrobank, Oceana Gold, PwC Philippines, Romulo Mabanta Sayok and De Los Angeles, Security Bank, SGV and Company, Sun Life Investment and Trust Management Corporation, UBS and Vivant Corporation. For our patron sponsors, Aboitiz Power, Accenture Philippines, BPI MS Insurance, Converge ICT Solutions, DMark Beauty, East West Bank Corporation, Ipsos Inc., Liberty Insurance Inc., Malayan Insurance Inc., McDonald's Philippines, MWell, FTI Consulting Inc., Obia Land, Philippine Equity Partners Inc., PNA Grand Tortos, Regis Partners Incorporated, San Miguel Corporation, and Unilab. Alagang tunay, alagang Pilipino, alagang Unilab yan.
Aba.
Minor Crystal Blue, Light Travel Express, Gardenia, Isla Petroleum and Gas Corporation, Jollibee Foods Corporation, Metro Pacific Tollways Corp, Nature Tint, CBCom, ST Telemedia, and Santa Lucia Land. We would also like to thank our official media partners, Business World, Manila Bulletin, the Manila Times, Philippine Star, and our technology partner, Grua. Thank you very much.
Wow.
Thank you, Kai, and thank you very much to our sponsors and partners. Now, may I introduce Ms. Salve Doplito, who's the anchor for Business Outlook at the ABS-CBN News Channel. Salve will introduce our speakers for today.
All right. For our program this morning, first of all, I'd like to thank everybody listening in online and everybody who's here in the boardroom with us today. It's been a very interesting morning, and we're looking forward to a really great conversation to continue FINEX Week. It's a privilege and an honor for me to be here. First of all, we will be starting with the introduction of our keynote speaker, right? We call him RR Junior. I remember when
It's
I was
actually RRR.
it's just a reporter, we called him Boy Blue. I don't know if you guys still remember that. I have no idea why, but I think it has something to do with the fact that he has a sister who was Pinky.
That's right.
Right. All right.
Pink
So
and blue sounded cute.
he has one of the company's largest conglomerates today, and a brand that really lives the adage, making lives better. I will not say anymore. I know you all know who he is. Let's turn to RR for his keynote speech.
Thank you. Thank you, Salve. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for inviting me. Let me first greet our FINEX President, Toti Bengson, members of the board, members of the committee, Women in Finance, Young Finance Officers Committees, and everybody, the thousands of people joining us right now. I think the vice presidential debate has lost its audience because they're all here listening to us. You know, what I thought I would do rather than read my prepared remarks is tell you a little bit about how FINMA began and the context for why FINMA was created to start with. And I think that explains quite a bit of where we are today. FINMA was started in 1956 by my father. That was still sort of picking up the pieces from the Second World War, which ended in 1945. My father worked with multinational companies primarily. Well, first he went to the best school in the Philippines, De La Salle. And all his education was at De La Salle. He worked for two multinationals, first with IBM, where he became the first Filipino general manager of IBM in the Philippines. And then he went to Film Life, where there too he rose to become the highest ranking Filipino as executive vice president. But he had an American boss above him. But he never lost the idea that he wanted to do more. And what he really wanted to do, I think, was to do something more directly involved with helping rebuild the Philippines, because it was still, as I said earlier, in the aftermath of the Second World War. So he thought of creating an organization that he said would spur the development of enterprises, particularly in rebuilding our industrial base, was what he was after. He had two objectives when he started FINMA. He said, I want to prove that Filipino managers are as good as any in the world. And I guess it's because of his experience with multinationals that he felt the need to prove that Filipinos are as good as anyone else. Second was, of course, to be an active participant in nation building. He had no money, not very much. He worked with multinationals, therefore had a good pay, etc. Actually, he had a good career. It would have been all right if he had continued with the multinationals. But as I said, he had these other objectives. So he put together some friends, and he also tapped he had by then developed a pretty good network of people that he could tap into from his days at De La Salle. And then he was active in an organization called the JCs, Junior Chamber International, which was a rich source of networking for people. And then also, of course, in his work at IBM and Philam Life, he encountered members of the business community, including some of the senior members of the business community. So that was his starting point. And he said, well, his idea was to put together a group that would do basically feasibility studies. And then they would bring it to capitalists. The capitalists at the time were the landed people, particularly in the sugar area. So he invited a gentleman by the name of Ernesto Escalet to be one of his partners in FINMA. And they were very large in sugar in the Pampanga area. Yeah. But he also formed a group of professionals. So that was the idea. They would put together feasibility studies, they would present it to investors, and the investors would hopefully respond positively. And that's how he would participate in nation building. The first opportunity that came their way was a privatization possibility. And it was one of the earliest privatizations in the Philippines. This was the privatization of a cement plant, actually owned by CEPOC, the Cebu Portland Cement Corporation or something like that. But it was not in Cebu, it was in Macnotan, La Union. And that relatively small cement plant was available for privatization. So they were accepting bids, they put it out to bids. Long story short, they put together a bid and they won and they got it. So that started the whole thing. They ended up with the cement plant. His investors responded positively. They put together the money and they acquired the cement plant. And that's how it all started. What happened was they were successful in turning around the cement plant. They built it up, and that became the base of building up their credibility, their reputation, their ability to put together other studies in other fields, and doing the same thing, presenting well-studied studies, feasibility studies, to possible investors. And through the years, they ended up setting up things like a pulp and paper company, a bottle making plant, steel roofing, and even the first Filipino oil refinery, which was Filoil at the time. But, and those enterprises some of them were quite successful, some not so. But where they made their mark really was in cement. And the cement industry was something that they could build on, and they built it, so that over time, it became really the flagship of what became FINMA. And at its peak, the FINMA group controlled and owned or managed up to 50% of the Philippine cement production. Cement production and sales were FINMA companies. Now, again, to put it back in context, so what was happening in the Philippines was EDSA took place. And then we had the aftermath of EDSA. We had President Cory Aquino and we had President Fidel Ramos. Those were very good years for the Philippine economy, the first 11 years after EDSA. In fact, not only did we get back on our feet as a Philippine economy, but people were beginning to get very bullish. Particularly in the Ramos years, we were beginning to call ourselves baby tiger cubs or the next tiger cub, etc. But what that meant was the business community was also becoming very, very bullish about the future of the Philippines. And we were not spared. We were among those who were extremely bullish. Our cement business was doing very well. So we were convinced, or we agreed, or we decided among ourselves that we would expand our cement business very aggressively. Two cement plants at the same time we were going to expand. Not only that, we were aggressive also in the financing because foreign financial institutions were offering foreign financing all over. They were knocking on doors offering very attractive dollar loans. So we fell for that, and we also were expanding our pulp and paper company all at the same time. Then, in 1998, the Asian financial crisis hit us, and hit us really badly, as you will recall. Now, while the entire economy suffered, I think no sector of the economy suffered more than the real estate sector, the property sector. I guess Monty would know this very well. But in particular, because interest rates had to be jacked up to protect our currency and our economy, etc., and then the peso had to be devalued very significantly. So those two things really were double whammies for us. The high interest rates practically killed the real estate market overnight. And the real estate market, of course, is the main customer for cement. So the demand for cement dropped very significantly. But here we were in the middle of expanding our facilities, having incurred very significant dollar borrowings. And all of a sudden, our market was gone. And we were faced with debts that in peso terms had practically doubled without any increase in productive capacity. So that was quite a difficult situation for us to be in. And we had to bite the bullet and figure out, wow, so what do we do next? It was a question of existence. To allow us to exist, we said to ourselves, we really have to bite the bullet. Long story short, we ended up having to eventually dispose of our crown jewel, which is cement. First, we sell. So, fortunately, at the time, the multinational cement companies were looking and sniffing around in the Philippines and very much interested in buying into the Philippines, and particularly the FINMA cement companies, because we were the leaders. So we were not short of people interested in buying us. And we were able to do it first by selling off just 50% of FINMA. FINMA cement companies, Union Cement Corporation was the name. But then over time, we decided that maybe the complexion of the industry had changed enough, etc., so that we said, maybe we should just get out of it totally. We still had our steel roofing business. We still had that property business. But we did decide to sell out of cement, mainly because we felt that the prospects for a Philippine group in cement was no longer as attractive as it used to be. So we sold. And at that point, I guess we had to decide, what do we do next? And I guess we gathered ourselves together. That's, by the way, the time when I became actively involved in FINMA. Before that, I was not really actively involved. I was in finance, banking, etc., starting with Bancom and then Anscore Capital and just like that. We got ourselves together and said, what are we going to do? One clear option is just to distribute the proceeds of the sale of the cement business and enjoy the rest of our lives as shareholders and not worry about anything anymore, and call it quits and the end of FINMA. But of course, many of us felt, my gosh, there's so much more that needs to be done. And there's so much more that FINMA can offer. By that time, we believe, built up a reputation for being very serious professionals who conducted our business in a very professional and honest way with integrity and professionalism. So we thought to ourselves, baka naman there are still things we can do for our country. So let's not disperse the capital and let's look for things to do. Okay, so we thought to ourselves, what is it that the Philippines needs at this point? And we, after discussions of various possibilities, we said to ourselves, what's our principal resource as a country? It's our people. So we said, if our people is our principal resource, what do we need to do so that our people become productive and competitive, not only around the region, but around the world? So we said education. education, and many of us had backgrounds in education just by sitting on boards of trustees, etc. But we said, how about education? And by that time, to be honest, a few business groups had already ventured into education. I think the Yuchenkos had already acquired Mapua. Centro Escolar was, of course, in the hands of Yap and Chao's families, etc. Jose Rizal was in the hands of the Fabelias and others. So it was not a whole new proposition to go into education. And our impression was it's a reasonably profitable business and you can be doing good. So we plunged in. How we did that was we didn't have any capability to go into education. So one of the key things we did was to bring in people from outside. And the key person that we brought in was Chito Salazar. But the education business that we wanted to get into was not to produce more LaSalles and Ateneos and even USTs and FEUs. We said, if we will do education that will have an impact, it should be education that is good quality but accessible to the poor. Now, that was quite a challenge. Fortunately, Chito Salazar, whom I invited to be our main ball carrier for education, shared that vision. He says, in fact, he told me when I wanted to bring him into FINMA, he says, sir, I've actually decided that I want to spend the rest of my life not making money, but serving the poor. Well, I said, you can serve the poor, but you don't need to be poor yourself. I mean, you can have a good career. You can have a good business career, and we will together look for ways to serve them. No, really, that's really the way we came together. And so he says, yes, sir. So he formed the team little by little. We acquired 1 or 2 schools at the beginning. Long story short, we've been in the education business now for 20 years. It's been very fulfilling for us. It's been very satisfactory. Maybe just to rattle off some statistics that I put together just to remind you of some of the things we've been able to do.
We did this also in ANs.
Yeah. Yeah. We have been in education now for 20 years, as I said. The markets we chose to serve were the very poor. These were the D&E economic sectors. These were the children of farmers, of tricycle drivers, manual laborers, etc. And these were mostly in rural communities. We were not buying schools in Manila at the time. We were buying schools in the first 2 schools we bought were in Cabanatuan and in Cagayan de Oro. And then after that in Iloilo and in Dagupan. But these were really very poor kids. These were kids who were not ready for college. When they applied to our schools, we run tests to see their level of competency. And their level of competency was about grade 4 or grade 5 in reading and math. If one were to apply normal standards for acceptance into college, only about 3% of them would qualify to enter college. But we told ourselves, how are we going to serve the poor if we just turn them away? So we said, we will have an open admissions policy. We will bring in these kids who are not ready for college, but we will work with them so that at the end of their 4 or 5 years with us, they will become ready. Some of them at least, or a good number of them will be ready to take these board exams that will lead to occupations and jobs. And that's exactly what we did. It's worked. It's worked very nicely. Chito put together a marvelous team to put it together, but just some statistics. In school year 24-25, our enrollment reached now is 164,000. We're now the largest educational network, not only in the Philippines, but we're told in Southeast Asia. But more importantly, we have been able to sustain or even improve the quality of our education. Our board passing rate across the different board exams, which means nursing, medicine, education, engineering, criminology, etc., is 84%. We in school year 23-24 only, we had 31 top-notchers, including top 10 in nursing, optometry, criminology, pharmacy. Southwestern University was rated the #1 school in optometry in October 23, and in pharmacy in May. University of Pangasinan also was recognized as one of the top schools in nursing and in criminology. The other metric we were looking at was how many of our kids get employed quickly after graduation. And our number for last year was 77% of our graduates are employed within 1 year. And 39% of them are employed in jobs where they are paid more than the minimum wage. Are we happy with those statistics? No. We want to do more. We want all of our graduates to be employed within 1 year, and we want all of them to be paid better. But I think this is very good, particularly when you think about the fact that these were kids who were not ready for college in the first place. Only 3% of them were ready for college in the first place. So for so many of them to be able to take the board passing exams and to pass them and then to find jobs, I think that's quite satisfying. So that's where we are. But the other thing was the business was also profitable. And because I'm talking to financial executives, I think it's important. This was not a charity by any means. And I think maybe the best evidence of that was just this year. In fact, we're about to close it. KKR just made a very significant investment in our education business. But before that, 5 years ago, ADB, FMO of the Netherlands, and a private investment group called Cash Invest also invested in us. This year, it's KKR. And what they did was they bought out ADB and FMO because they really have a 5-year horizon. And just to give you an idea of how well they've done, they doubled their money in the 5 years. What they earned getting out was double what they put in 5 years ago. So there you are. So it is a very socially satisfying business, but also fitable. So not bad. So maybe just to, I guess I don't want to take up the whole time doing this, but when I get started talking about what they're doing, unfortunately, it's very hard for me to stop. But let me now maybe just talk a little bit about the topic, which is transformational growth and generations. I think this transformation of FINMA was very significant. Probably one of the most significant transformations of a company that was in heavy industry, transforming itself into worrying about our human capital rather than our hard assets. And it was a significant transformation that required, I guess, dealing with generations. In the case of FINMA, our family are the principal owners of FINMA. So yes, I am a second generation member of the principal stockholder family. And I guess I have to say that I was very much involved in the transformation that took place. But I was not alone. Two of my siblings were very actively involved in the business. My brother Billy is now involved with our construction materials group, very much so. And he also brought in the key person who has helped us, this fellow Ed Sahagun, who was CEO of Holcim and retired from Holcim and came and helped us out. And my other brother, Jose Mari, is in charge of our hospitality business, where he runs Microtel and Trip, now runs 15 hotels. And then, of course, below that, the next generation, represented by people like Danielle and others who are members of our family. Danielle will talk a little bit later about what she's doing, but beyond education, we want to do more. The focus continues to be how we can participate in nation building, how we can continue to make lives better. And we're all driven by the core values that I spoke of earlier: integrity, professionalism, competence, and nationalism. We really believe in doing our part to make this a better, stronger country. So it's a combination of the generations below my father coming in and going to bat and helping out, but also bringing in very significant help from outside, the likes of Chito Salazar and Ed Sahagun and Pete Felix are our lead people. But there are many, many others within the FINMA group who have helped us. So it's that kind of a combination that has allowed us not only to transform ourselves, but to continue. But I think the unifying factor is very important, very, very important. The vision of making lives better is across the board highly accepted. EJ is another great example of somebody who has joined us. He joined me, by the way, as my executive assistant. And his first job, he won't tell you. Because it had nothing to do with FINMA. I was also chairman of the National Museum. And I asked him, I said, I need help because it's such a massive job. And my main job in the National Museum was to create a new museum out of nothing. We had to transform an old building in Agrifina, the old finance building, with the old agriculture building, which became the tourism building. And we were going to convert that into a museum of natural history.
Oh, wow.
Wow, how to do that? First, the budget. The national government gave us a budget. Then I had to raise a lot of money from the private sector. And I needed somebody like EJ to help me out, to watch the money that was coming in, to make sure we were not overspending, and to watch over the procurement process and things like that. And he did a marvelous job. And I think it's a good training. He did not lose weight, but he obviously some gray hair. But anyway, these are the kinds of people who are helping us move forward in FINMA. And I think they're all marvelous people, but they're all driven by a similar passion for helping people and making lives better, and also practicing all of these principles I spoke about earlier. So let me stop there. I'm sorry I've taken more time than I planned to, but I thought it would be useful and interesting for you, and I expect Danielle and Salve to fill in the gaps. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. What a pleasure. I know everybody would like to hear you speak more. You can take up our time. It's totally fine. It's a privilege to hear the history instead of reading about it,
Yeah.
as I've been doing, and hear it instead from you. Now I'd like to turn the time to Miss Danielle R. Del Rosario, COO of Union Panel Insulated Corporation, the banker turned builder, same as the dad, and who is also right now thinking of so many plans, how to bring FINMA into the next generation. Again, I won't take up too much time. Danielle, please take the floor.
Yeah, thank you very much, Salve. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Toti Pengson, our FINEX president, board members, committee chairs. Thank you very much for joining us today. Mr. Del Rosario, thank you so much. So, what the job I have to come after this gentleman here, do my best, as always.
You have no problem. By the way, I'm her alalay here. As in your show, I was clearly her alalay. So here I am again. But I just took a few more minutes than I needed.
So, as Mr. Del Rosario has mentioned, we are really anchored on our values in the FINMA group. So, we talk about integrity. It's really about passionately pursuing our mission, which is making lives better and really doing our societal efforts to grow the country. But we always do it with a conscience. Integrity is unquestionable for us. This is something we adhere to, and we make sure this is present all from top to bottom of the line. Obviously, we also have a deep love for country. Patriotism is really one of our goals. That's how we started, and this is how it's always going to be. Everything we do, it has to have a social impact. It's not even a question. We can go into many businesses. I can think of many, but for FINMA, the way we assess new businesses, it's always what is the strategic function for us there? How does it tie in with our goal to build the nation and to really help as many people as we can? And I'd like to share a little bit of a story. When we went into education, I think my dad had a conversation with my mom, and she said, you know what, do what you can to help as many people as you can. And so I think all of us at FINMA all the generations throughout are committed to doing this to help the country. Next is our drive for excellence. We have a deeply rooted committed to doing things as best as we can. We may not start the business knowing much about it, but you can see that the passion fuels the drive for innovation, also for building proficiency. In my journey within FINMA, I've actually moved from the foundation to our energy business, to doing strategy and risk for the group. And now I'm in construction materials, and all of these things were actually new to me. But again, we don't do things alone. We learn from those who have joined our crusade also to do better things. And so definitely, it's not a journey to be done alone. I think that would be too difficult and probably impossible. So we're also very grateful for the professionals who join us as well as our family members. And then, of course, our fourth value is professionalism. FINMA, I guess the new terms, we call it old school. It's very old school. When we have partners who join us, people from other countries, they always make a comment. Oh, you really do things so well here. We're adherence to corporate governance, our adherence to being in an old school boardroom. That's very FINMA. Yes, sometimes we're a little bit formal, but we think that it's so important to preserve this culture, this nature. It's easy to lose that, no, in the professional setting. We work with 7 decades of people in FINMA. We have people in their 80s, 70s, 60s, 50s. So 80s, 70s, 60s, 50s, 40s, 30s, and 20s. So can you imagine that kind of diversity? But rather than have conflict really jump off from the seams, we use that kind of diversity. We learn from those who came before us. There's so much wisdom to be shared. And then, of course, you have the younger generations. I like to think of myself as still young. But then we have the much younger generations also. And so what we always tell our teams is to talk to us, to really engage in full discourse, because that's where we get the good ideas. I think it's the same with my dad and with myself. We really like to elicit the good ideas from the very bright people that we ask to join us. I'd like to take credit also for bringing in EJ Coranzo to the FINMA group. We were colleagues in a finance sector, and I think that's one of the best things I've done for the FINMA group. Thank you, EJ, who's now our CFO. Yeah, so I think it's really important. We have our vice chairman, Dr. Albarazin, who always says, hire people who are smarter than you. We have no problem doing that. In fact, we'd love to invite more brilliant minds to join the FINMA group. And I think I'd like to share a little bit about my experience with the brilliant minds in FINMA. So when I joined the FINMA group, it was through the foundation. There was an opening at the FINMA National Scholarship Program, where it's our flagship program. We help to build future teachers, mostly engineers and accountants. It's our vision is that leaders are not born, they're made. So more than just tuition and financial assistance, it's a 4-year leadership program. We have leadership sessions for them every year, and each and every scholar actually has a big brother, big sister, one-to-one mentor, someone from the FINMA group. So that was a wonderful way for me to enter the FINMA group. And my boss then was Mr. Bobby Lavinia. He was our chief operating officer. And from there, I really learned the old school values of FINMA and why we do things the way we do. That even if it's running a scholarship program, we have that commitment to be very professional with our students who we're training to be young and very responsible, socially minded individuals. And I think from there, the foundation is actually funded by all the businesses. 1/2 of 1% of our net income goes into the foundation. And so the board of trustees is all the business heads. And that's where I got discovered by the other business heads. And to that extent, I was invited by Dr. Francisco Viray, who was our head of energy, the energy business back then. He was also, I think many of you know him, the former Secretary of Energy and very much responsible for the EPIRA Act. So he asked me to join FINMA. And again, you get a very different perspective from the industrial side, energy side, also very academic side. He used to be the Dean of Energy. And so again, I had that privilege of being mentored by someone who's very big in the energy sector, but also very much close to the values of FINMA. So we grew that business. We, I think, started out with 1% of the energy share in the market, but this is when the retail competition and open access happened, and so we were able to secure retail energy contracts up to around 14% of the country. We were the second largest individual retail supplier. He asked me after to lead marketing and sales of energy. Again, what did I know about energy? So we had to quickly learn and grow. I think we were able to make a decent, reputable name for ourselves, so much that in 2019, AC Energy was able to make a very wonderful investment in the FINMA Energy assets and company. So after that, I had the privilege of becoming the Director for Strategy and Risk for the FINMA Group, and I was very much privileged to be working with Victor Del Rosario, second to my father, and he really let me grow that role. And what we were able to do during that time was really bring together the different units within the FINMA parent office, get everybody to be talking to each other more. Again, collaboration became kind of a newer theme, I think, coming from older generations. And it was during this time also that the pandemic happened. We were very, very able to just jump from being in the office every day to go online. We actually announced that people shouldn't go to work March 13th. And so the next day, everybody out. And I have a funny story that our vice chairman was sitting beside me, Dr. Albarazin, and asked me, "So, Danielle, if I want to go to the office, can I go?" "No, sir. No, sir, you cannot. Because if he comes here, you have to ask the secretary to come. We have to ask the guard to come. We have to ask the people to feed him." Also said, "Sorry, sir, no, you cannot." But the amazing thing happened is everybody jumped on tech. These guys are techie. They all quickly learned how to use Zoom, online shopping, online payments also. But just to show the resiliency of all the generations within FINMA, there was no way that the younger ones are going to complain, because you see, it's really leading by example. And then so it brings me to where I am today. I'm with the Construction Materials Group, led by Mr. Eduardo Sahagon, who actually started with FINMA. He was the executive assistant of Ambassador Del Rosario back then. He left FINMA and stayed with their cement business when we sold the cement, and then came back and formed FINMA and took me under his wing to, I guess, teach me all he can about being in this hard industry and construction materials. And our vision now is really thinking about how can we do this better. If we're going to be building the country literally and figuratively, we need to be able to think about the processes and the products of how we do this. How can we bring down costs also, so that aside from just selling construction materials, we can build homes that are more affordable. We can build homes that are cooler. We can save on energy and construction costs as well. So I think these are some of the things that we are dreaming about in FINMA. We're trying to, again, build more proficiency, teaming up also with others, not only in the country, but also bringing in international ideas and talents. I guess these are the things that make it exciting for us. So yeah, I think, I guess what's important is we keep on tooling up. We're very much committed to learning, also committed to our own teams. Definitely, it would be, I guess, very hard to do this on our own. We really need to grow our teams. Many times, especially now, it's really taking a step back and wondering, what can we do to perform better? What can we do to sustain everybody's energy? So a lot of it is not just on the technical side, but also on the aspects of nurturing our leaders and our people. So I think there's deep recognition that we can harness from the collective of this multi-generational talent pool. So leading by example, this was definitely set forth by our leaders. Continuous drive for energetic passion to grow, current generation of leaders. Also, of course, innovative thinking while staying true to who we are. We want to try new ways of doing things, thinking out of the box. But of course, it's always within that bandwidth of integrity and professionalism and competence. And so the next generation and the future generation of FINMA comes into the picture with a great level of responsibility and commitment to do good. By the stellar example of the men and women who came before me, came before us, to the communities and markets that we continue to serve and uplift, all the while taking care to develop and nurture our people. So our businesses will continue to demonstrate this commitment, and yeah, we are developing smarter and more sustainable ways also to do things, to manufacture. In the FINMA property side, also we want to keep on building homes that are more affordable and just better for to build wholesome communities. And of course, our hospitality group will continue to promote the Philippines as a destination of choice, a safe one, and a happy one to visit. So we are poised for growth and expansion. We are firmly committed to continuing the FINMA legacy of serving the country and nation building. So I hope you enjoyed our story. We are far from done. We have much, much, much work to do. The responsibility and the legacy must live on. Thank you.
May I quickly add? I forgot some things kasi. I just wanted to add that beyond what we're doing in education, pursuing this idea of doing what we can to make lives better. My next dream is actually to do in housing what we're doing in education. I really think there is a crying need for decent homes for more and more people. There's still millions of people who are unable to live in decent homes. Now, it's a huge challenge. But what we did was we brought in the chairman of Gawad Kalinga. He is now a full-time officer of FINMA Properties. He is starting a new effort, and we're calling it community housing. And the idea is to work to develop workers' villages, where we will try to, I guess the challenge is still there, and we still haven't really quite pinned down the formula on how we will achieve it. But as I said, the challenge is to do in housing what we're doing in education, make high quality housing affordable to the masses. And I think we've got the team to do it. We're working very hard on it, and that's something. Danielle did not focus on it, but in construction materials, the group that Danielle is heading is insulated panels. And how does that help the poor? Well, one of our problems in this country is hunger and food sufficiency. And one of the reasons why food is so expensive is because so much of what we grow is lost between the farm and and consumption. And one of the solutions to that is cold storage facilities. And that's where insulated panels will come into the picture. And that, again, is our way of saying we don't know how to go into agriculture. We will not plant. But maybe there are other areas where we can focus our energies and see what we can contribute to the whole thing. And we're hoping that that can be a significant enough business also so that it will have an impact. So those two things. As Danielle said, in hospitality, we continue to focus not on luxurious five-star hotels. Our hotels are what? We like to say that they are 2 or 3 stars in terms of cost, but 5-star in terms of service. But they're really very proud of the quality of service, and it is affordable. So, and it's for the mass market, our micro-hotels and trips. So there, let me stop there. I just wanted to throw that in because it's not just education; it's all of these other businesses that we're trying to push along the same lines.
We're developing the products to meet those goals.
Wow. Please watch out for the full interview on ANC. Thank you so much for that interchange. I think we're going to have a fun panel later with, as you can see, the interchange between these two is they're just very, very adorable. And I have a lot of questions. But for now, I'd like to turn the time to Pavitar Kaur, who's online. She's the senior leader of the Technology and Transformation Department, I suppose, of Deloitte, Southeast Asia. Hi, Pavir.
Hello, hi. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Yes, that was really, I mean, I love to see the dynamic duo. It was really nice to hear your story. So thank you so much for sharing that. I took a lot of notes because I think I learned a lot this morning as well. So first of all, I would like to thank the FINEX organization and the president, Mr. Augusto Bengzon, and also the committee today for inviting me. Also, a very good morning to Mr. Ramon Del Rosario and also Ms. Danielle Del Rosario, and also Ms. Salve, who will be conducting the panel today. So I would just like to say that, thank you for having me. And as you mentioned just now, I'm a senior leader in our Southeast Asia practice. Malaysian, working and living in Indonesia right now for the past 8 years, growing our Deloitte technology and transformation business in Indonesia. But spending half of my time in the Philippines. So the Philippines is very close to my heart. I work with a lot of Filipino companies, so this is really nice for me to be part of today. So thank you for having me. Firstly, I would like to say that, this is a topic that is very close to my heart, and it's really nice to hear all the good work that the FINMA organization is doing in this space as well. And just seeing the candor between both of you is a great example of, bridging generational excellence as well. So I think I want to start with something that Ms. Danielle mentioned just now about the fact that leaders are born and not born, they are made. And I think that rings true to me as well, because I started my career in a company called General Electric. And at that time, years ago, it was known as the factory for creating leaders. So and the reason I say that is because in order for us to really, get the best out of the generations that are come before us and are coming after us, we have to be intentional with our leadership every single day. And our job, we only have one job, if not, out of many, but one most important job is to be replaceable. So we need to ensure that the people coming after us are ready to take on the job that we do and make it even better. So I really love that, that insight from you, ma'am. What I also want to say is that, right now in organizations, we are at a very unique point because we have 4 different generations working and, cohesively working together in an organization. So what I mean by 4 generations is that, we have the baby boomers, we have the Gen X, we have the Gen Y or millennials, and we also have the Gen Zs. And slowly creeping in are the Gen Alphas. And I have a very tough job because I'm in between everything in my organization and also with the clients that I serve. So as much as I need to, understand the generations that have come before me, but I also need to understand the slang and the candor and the laughter of the generations that are coming after me as well. So this brings us to a point where, why are we talking about this today, and why is this topic so important that we're spending time today talking about it? And it's because of this. And it's not enough to say that we understand our people, we understand our employees. We need to understand the motivations behind each of these generations, and how can we make the workplace and the work that we provide them something that they love and something that they can't wait to jump out of bed to do, right? So understanding the different motivations of the different generations, I think it's key in order to really bridge this generational gap. And, the topic for today was about sustainable organizational success and growth. And, how do we, use the diversity of different generations to do that? So in Deloitte, we believe that, if you think about it, if your biggest challenge is to create growth, in order to have growth, you need to be able to differentiate. We all know that in order to grow your business, you need to offer something that is different than everybody, something that is unique. And in order to differentiate, you need to be innovative. You need to innovate. In order to innovate, you need diversity. And I'll take it one step ahead and say to activate the diversity, you need inclusion. And to manage all of this, you need inclusive leadership. So why is innovation, why is growth so important? And why is, the topic of diversity and different generations important today is because, it just makes better business sense. You are 2 times more likely to meet or exceed your financial targets, 3 times more likely to be high performing, 6 times more likely to be innovative and agile, and 8 times more likely to achieve better business outcomes. So it just makes sense. And this is why this is something that we absolutely need to do. So thank you for having me today, and I'm looking forward to the panel discussion.
Thank you
Back
so
to
much. Very interesting when you said you're in the middle of all of the generations and you have to understand. I don't think I'm able to understand it just yet. But very quickly, let me move on to our panel discussion because I would like to jump into the fact that RRR, now I call you DRR, because it's like talking to the dad, but not. You reminded us that as we talk about generational gap and transformational change, you are the second generation. And I wanted to know, everybody would like to know, I think, what was it like when it was the time when you were seen as the future of FINMA and getting wisdom from Ambassador Rosario?
I would say that I was not seen as the future of FINMA immediately because we did have very strong leaders outside of the family, particularly Oscar Hilado was very much at the helm of FINMA. My father spent years in the diplomatic service, so that allowed for the people immediately under him to blossom and grow in their own way. And that's the time when I guess Mr. Hilado and Dr. Albarracin and other people, including people like Dr. Viray, had an opportunity. Not that my father was suppressing them in any way, but because of his absence and the fact that they had to make decisions and take initiatives on their own, I think that allowed a more dramatic growth in their professionalism. So I was not coming in any way as a savior or a next generation or anything like that. I came in as a new person. I was always there, of course, as part of the family. I was on boards, but when I said that I only got actively involved in FINMA in a management form during the transition was a reality because I was very much involved in my financial career at that point. So I did not have all that much professional interaction with my father, believe it or not, because he was not here at the time. He was ambassador first to Canada and then to Germany and then to Japan. And that was quite a long period of time. And that happened to be the time when I got. So my interaction was principally with the other leaders of FINMA, particularly Mr. Hilado, whom I look upon as, I guess, my mentor, if there's anyone else, unfortunately, more than my father. But that's okay. I mean, my father did enough to imbue FINMA with the spirit that he wanted us to follow. And he would, of course, come regularly and be a very significant presence. My father was a very strong personality, and he would dominate meetings when he was around. So everybody was kind of quiet.
Can you out-talk him?
I did not try. It was not proven.
Pavitar, please feel free to jump in if you have to, if you would like to give us more insights about this, because of course you can see more than just the Philippines, right? You're all over Asia. DRR, what was I think everybody's thinking, because most of the Philippine conglomerates that are family owned are already, transferring power to the next generation. Well, how do you, within the family, what was it like? Was there any conversation that would attempt to steer you to go into the business? Because not all kids go to their parents' businesses, right? Some of them actually do things that are very different. Can you show us, or can you tell us some very specific or very personal? Was there any hands-on to steer you into the business?
This is an easy question, actually. No, there was none.
Quick answer.
There was none. So I spent many of my formative years in banking, which I really enjoyed. That's where I think I really realized I like to engage with people and kind of specialize in finance. So it was later on in my life, I guess, and in my career, that I realized, you know what, we have this group. I would love to check it out and see if there's something I can contribute. So it was never from a role of make room for me. It was really about thinking about, is there something I can bring to the group? So actually, it was a formal email that I sent to my dad in 2011. Really, I kid you not, I'll look for it. And I said, I didn't naman say Mr. Dad. So I said, dear Dad, is there somewhere in your large organization where I can continue to grow my skills and also develop the youth as
What did I say?
Don't think about it. I was also a young parent at the time, so I wanted to use my development of the youth and my other skills from outside of the group. And it turned out that we were looking for someone for the National Scholarship Program of FINMA. And so he referred me to our COO, Mr. Lavinia, and said, talk to Bobby. And so we had a formal meeting, and I think I fit the job. I took the job. I didn't know if I would get paid at all, but then that was the beginning of my journey in FINMA. No, it was a great way for me to understand without that threatening presence also in the group. I joined without any revenue targets. I joined and met people campaigning for them to become a big brother or big sister within the group. I joined meetings by trying to meet and see who are the different individuals within the FINMA group and knowing them as people, not as officers, not as anybody reporting to me. So I made a lot of friends. I even danced in our Christmas parties and they made me do all sorts of things. And it was fun. And it was a wonderful way for me to really get to know FINMA. So was there a talk about it at home? No, but through every major change that I made within the FINMA group, when Dr. Viray invited me to go and join the energy group, I asked my dad, do you think it's a good idea? What do you think about this? And he said, well, that's one of our flagship businesses now, so it would be good for you to learn it.
So I wanted to clarify that because he was the one who was hiring you.
No,
Okay.
Mr. Lavinia.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not sector.
Maybe it's
Yes,
important.
Dr. Viray.
Maybe it's important to bring up one point. FINMA was not thought of as a family corporation
Yes.
from the beginning. My father was very, very particular about saying this is a professional organization.
Yes.
It just so happened that through the years, the ownership structure emerged so that at the present time, we are the principal shareholders. And I guess recognizing that is really what has spurred more and more of us to think about what should we be doing in FINMA, because it's a great responsibility. But it was not a family, it was not formed as a family corporation from the beginning, and it was never thought of like that. So it was not as if from my father it had to be me, etc., etc. No, in fact, my father, it was Mr. Hilado. And then Mr. Hilado, I think it's even Mr. Hilado who invited me to play a more active role in FINMA rather than my father. That's the way the dynamics works. My brother Billy, I think, applied also for FINMA after Columbia Business School. It was not as if Dad said, come and join us. No, it's always us looking for our own opportunities. In my case, it was working with Mr. Hilado, but that's the way it has evolved. My brother Mari, setting up his hospitality business, had a hard time convincing RVR to invest in hotels. In fact, he ran to me to help him out to get the franchise of Microtel.
It's always hard.
It was first me run. So that's the kind of dynamics in the family. It wasn't as of, that we were spoon fed or we were automatically thought of as the next leaders of the organization. But that has served us well.
Yes.
And that's why we have had a thriving group of professionals working hand in hand with the members of the family. The other thing we're doing to introduce our family members to FINMA now is because we have so many schools, we have so many boards, and so we're introducing quite a number of the younger ones in our school boards, for example. And that has allowed them to learn more about what we're doing and to, I guess, get a feel of this passion that we have for reaching out to the poor and helping them. That and now it's not just only in the schools, even on our hospitality business, for example. So we've got a large number of next gen Del Rosarios now in our boards, and that's been done deliberately so that they get a better feel of what we're doing.
A very unique structure, therefore, and a culture that is very different from the rest of Asia.
Yeah, by the way, my successor as CEO of FINMA will not be a Del Rosario. Yeah.
And that has been decided, no?
It has been decided. It has not yet been formally done, so maybe I will not announce it here. I think it's not a secret, but I just don't want to formally announce it because it's not yet done, but it will be done in the coming months.
And the
I'm
reason
turning 80 in a few weeks, and I think that's a ripe old age where maybe it's time to
Insider dream.
at least to turn over, to turn over the
Yes, we all
CEO.
need to double our money in 5 years.
It's buy them a share. Yeah, and so that doesn't also stop us within the family to keep on doing something great within the group or even outside their spheres. So again, it's really growing that proficiency, growing that knowledge, and doing something good for the country. Can be within FINMA, can be outside of FINMA, can be part of FINMA. It really doesn't stop us. Again, it's not really about the position or the role. It's about being able to do good. And so when we become part of FINMA and we're honored by being able to stay in FINMA, a lot of it is really a stewardship role. It's doing something good. It's serving the country. It's serving the company also and all our shareholders. So even it's actually wonderful that we have professionals within the group that can make sure that everything is going smoothly and well. We have a lot of responsibilities to our shareholders.
As I said, very unique. And Pavitar, please jump in if you would like to say something, because addressing the elephant in the room, we have seen and we know of so many family-owned conglomerates, not just in the Philippines, but in Asia. It's a very unique culture in Asia, right? And you hear of self-entitlement or among the next generations. And I guess if you're a structure and if your culture is more professionally driven, then you sort of skirt that kind of problem. Pavitar, would you like to say something? I can hear your thoughts in my head. So
Yes, I was really wanted to say something. So thank you. And I'm just joking. So yeah, I mean, I work with a lot of family-owned businesses across Southeast Asia, and I think Philippines and Indonesia, especially, there are a lot of family-owned, very successful businesses and things like that. And the trend is, that at one point it was very prominent that there were a lot of studies that were saying that the second generation usually won't go into the same business and things like that. But now the trend has changed again, where the family is coming back in and taking the helms again, second generation, third generation. And I think that there is a lot of pros in this, and what we are seeing, that there's an upward trend in this as well. And the things that are really good is because these generations are getting more and more better education. They are, they start as, just like what Ms. Danielle mentioned as well. They start elsewhere. They bring in a lot of different perspectives. They are in a way self-made when they come into their family business, so that they can not only continue the legacy, but also to really, really grow it and make it better than it was before. So I think that there is a lot of good there. And we are seeing that trend not only in the Philippines, but all across Southeast Asia as well.
Thank you, Pavitar. Final question. I know that there will be a lot of answers to this question. We are at that point in time in the history of the world where there's so many things happening all at the same time. There's AI, the call for better jobs that will not be replaced by computers. There's environmental change. There's so many things, geopolitical things happening all around. How is FINMA dealing with all of those things now? And what are the risks that you think you need to really look at so that the next generation will be even more powerful in terms of making lives better, driving nation building, and so that more Filipinos will have better lives eventually?
The whole area of AI is hugely interesting, exciting, and challenging. And it's something I have to admit I do not know enough about. And I'm pushing our people to say, in fact, this is a current conversation in our group. We're telling each other that we need to understand the potentials of AI and how we can best use it in our businesses positively. In our schools, for example, the conversation is already Do we suppress it and make sure that they're not misusing it and using it to pass tests and write papers, etc.? Or do we teach our kids how to use it properly, productively, so that they become better students and learn better? That kind of thing. We're still
What
in
is
the
the
process
answer?
of trying to figure it out, quite honestly. So, but it's an evolving thing, and I'm sure that that's a conversation that's taking place across the board. So we're telling all of our business units that we really need to get into this whole space and understand it, because we really cannot ignore it, and it's there, and we should make the best use of it. So that's the general attitude. But in general, we're still groping with a lot of basics. As I mean, in our education business, it's still a question of arming our poor kids with the basics. You know how badly our kids do in international exams. Their inadequacies in terms of just basic skills like reading and writing and critical thinking and stuff like that. So it's a multi-pronged challenge. On the one hand, you've got all of these technological advances taking place that you cannot ignore. But on the other hand, you're still facing the issues of what do we do with all of our people who are so ill-equipped? And that is the challenge that continues to face us, for example, in our education business. So we've got to do both.
I think Pavitar touched on it also. It's really about being open to innovation. So definitely AI is something new for the group. I actually really enjoy using it, and I think it's a tool that's here to stay. If we don't use it, we'll be left behind. So part of it is really navigating how we can use it productively, ethically. That's not even a question for us, but it should go into the processes that we do. For example, in our manufacturing business, what can we do to plan better? How can we queue our materials and our deliveries? Logistics planning also, how can we do that so that we reduce costs, we save on people also. There are so many endless applications for AI. So in our case, we are really trying to embrace it. You also talked about climate change and those things, and that's so close to my heart because the products that we're making are specifically designed to meet climate change effects. So we're using insulation as part of our construction materials. You save on energy, you save on building costs. But more than that, I'm always looking for better ways to make those products happen. More sustainable sources, natural fibers, things that can actually utilize plastic again into the manufacturing system and make it a lot more circular. I have a dream actually. I made up a brand called FINMA Green Infrastructure. So if we can do that for the next generation, we're planting the seeds now, and those are some of the things of how we're thinking. I think it's really looking at as far beyond as 15, 20 years from now, and we have to make those decisions early. And then learning AI so that and the things that go with it, so we can do things faster, better, smarter. Also, helping people to really boost the way they work.
And in relation to that, congratulations. I saw the news about the Davao facility. And so I realized that as you shift so that you're able to take advantage of AI rather than be hurt by it, what are the old-fashioned tools? Could be strategic, financial. This is a FINEX event after all. What are the old-fashioned tools that must absolutely remain? If everything else changes, these are the things that we cannot forget.
Well, beyond the tools, of course, the values, di ba? Which are things that have served us very well all along. So I keep insisting integrity, integrity, integrity. Do things honestly. And of course, competence is very important, professionalism. These are the things that have really guided us through all of this time. Plus, the element of nationalism is probably quite unique to FINMA. Not many stress that belief. So, and then the basic tools of everything continues to be very, very important. I think of technological advances as tools that we can use to do things even better, but not to replace the fundamentals of the things that we do. How we put our balance sheets together and how we finance our projects, etc. No different. We still need capital. We still need debt. Still need to pay our debts at the end of the day and that kind of things. We still have to watch our cash flows. All of those things remain the same. And
I guess one old school but here to stay is really communication. ever stress enough how important it is to be able to communicate. And it's not only from boss to team. It's really encouraging collaboration, questions, even objections from
Yeah.
the team. Maybe in the past, it was a lot of top down. What I find works better is really having sideways conversations, talking to everybody, going down to the production line and finding out what is wrong so that we know how to help them. We also have foundational beliefs that everybody wants to do their best. We have to believe that everybody wants to do their best. Everybody is trying. And so when you have that in your mind, we know that they want to do their best. How come the results aren't exactly what we want? So it's really going down and talking and listening a lot. So it boils down to good old communication. Now we have more tools, which is great, but old school communication is really the way.
I love that. And I think that is the best way to end our conversation this morning. But I wanted to bring Pavitar in once more, but we've run out of time. But I want to end also with a comment from Zoom. Elisa Yee said, I admire Mr. Del Rosario and Daniel on your intense passion to make the lives of people better from your own companies and to the communities across the country. God bless you. Thank you so much. Always not in
Thank you very much, Salve. Thank you very, very much. I just need to make this statement about how FINMA is not just participating in nation building, but actually actively addressing poverty, which is a really huge problem. It shows also a very deep understanding of the challenges of the poor in the Philippines. So thank you very much for all you're doing. We'd like to invite then Toti, Kai, Jing, Janice, to please award our tokens of appreciation for Mr. Del Rosario and Ms. Danielle Del Rosario. As well as Salve, also please.
Folks beside the FINEX banner.
This one here. Yes, yes.
Hold on, please. Thank you so much. Sure. Thank you.
What is this series?
Super. Very, very nice. What is that?
Babies.
Nice. Thank you so much. Thank you very nice. Picture now, picture. Thank you very much.
Take the first photo for 3, 2, 1. One more, 3, 2, 1.
Mine, 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
Last.
One last. Over here, 3, 2, 1.
Hear me. 1, 2, 3, and. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations. My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. We'd like to.
That's all. Okay, I see. Okay. Thanks, Alvin. Thank you.
Vitar, we'd like to assure you that we're going to send you your own.
Don't worry about it.
Thank you very much for joining us
All good.
today.
Very nice. It's worth waiting for.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Now I'd like to introduce Ms. Janice Magpinay, who's the co-chair of the Young Finance Officers Committee, for her closing remarks.
Yeah, actually, I didn't want the session to end just yet. Thank you so much for inspiring us. You should, get more speaking engagements. The emails are. But what struck me most about the session this morning was that behind all this, it's still, especially for FINMA and the two of you, it's the bigger purpose. There's always a bigger purpose to it. And that's true what you mentioned, that not all companies would look at would be nationalistic and be looking at country building. So thank you for the inspiration this morning. But at this point, I also would like to thank Paviter and Salve for joining us this morning, and to everyone who stayed until now. We'd like to invite you for tomorrow's session, practical applications of AI to achieve Philippine development goals, and I hope that you registered, and especially also on Friday, because we have the whole morning, the whole day actually, and until the whole night to celebrate and to learn together, to have fun, because we prepared a lot for you guys. So hope to see you again tomorrow on a Friday. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great day. Thank you.